Today we're going to be talking about how to keep grounded or on track during the busy season, which is like Christmas time, which we're coming up to.
In case you didn't know.
The busy season, which could include Christmas time. So for me, this has been a bit of an adjustment because I've just finished uni for the year, and then a lot of the social events and stuff start to happen, and your routines and rituals, those routines and rituals have kind of been changed around a bit, and we need to then adjust to a new life or a new chapter.
A new life.
It kind of is. It's new routines, new stage. So how we're going to do this is what Brendan suggested is we're going to first address the issue. So what do you mean by
Why do
that?
you say it like that?
'Cause you're like, it's the first stage, first step.
I mean, you described it when you brought this up to me, that busy times can stress people out. And that's pretty true. That's facts. And I think you sort of came up with all the tools and the ways that we can de-stress and help our way through the situation. But I think it's important. I think it's the most important that you first understand what it is that's making you feel whatever type of way, whether it's anxious, worried, guilty, down, sad, because for a lot of people, this is the hardest time of the year.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that you arm yourself with the awareness and the understanding and the knowledge so that you can make the best decisions for yourself.
I think it's interesting that you say it's the hardest time of the year for some people because
A lot of people.
I have this like big thing in my head that Christmas or like, the festive season is like the best time of the year. And it does feel like there's a lot of expectation on it being so amazing and so filled with socializing and seeing everybody and having a good time. Like there's this pressure of that and that it's supposed to look a certain way as well. Or I have kind of set expectations or what I think it's going to be like. And with that comes a little bit of anxiety and stress and a little bit of confusion about how I can like continue doing all the practices that I know I need in order to feel grounded and feel like secure in myself. Like I want to continue those, but I'm not sure how it looks during a season like this,
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, this time of year sucks because you kind of go on social media and see everyone else having a great time with all their family. And for a lot of people, maybe they lost family, maybe they have a broken family, they don't have everyone together, or it's hard. Or, like me, you can't see everyone at once and everyone wants to see you, but you can't physically make it around to everyone. And some of these people you haven't seen for years. So it's difficult because it's supposed to be a time of joy and love and sharing.
And coming together.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not necessarily, not necessarily able in some cases.
In a lot of cases, yeah. Like I think it puts a lot of financial pressure on a lot of people, and I think that's very difficult. It always has been, but the times we're in now, even more so.
For sure.
So I think it's important. What we're going to talk about is important for those reasons.
Definitely.
And also that there are a lot of people out there that this will be the hardest time during the whole year, like simply for the fact that it's supposed to be a good time, but for whatever reason it might not be. So yeah, first thing is trying to understand why you're actually feeling the way you're feeling and that it's okay because, sometimes things happen.
Well, so how are you feeling about this coming period?
I think ever since my parents broke up, I've kind of learnt to want it over as soon as possible. Like I'm going to travel and see my family for a couple of days, and then as soon as it's over, I'm going to come home because I don't know. And I think my family is a little bit weird like this, but our way of coming together is it's negative in a lot of ways. Like we're not necessarily the nicest people to each other. Like we don't, but that's kind of our way of showing love.
What do you mean?
Like I don't think we really ever say nice things outwardly to each other ever.
You're kind of like joking and sarcasm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So does that affect you, do you think?
Well, like it's not the reason, but I think that over an extended period of time, underneath all of the things that have happened, like in our family growing up, it's just like
A sensitive period.
well, it just feels like you want to break from it sometimes. And to go there when the time of year when it's supposed to be the most fun
Yeah.
and happy.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my family. We have a great time most of the time. But sometimes that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're just apprehensive about this period then?
Yeah. Well, mainly a large part of it is because I feel like I have so many houses that I should be at. And there are so many people that I feel like expect me to be there.
Yeah.
And I can't be. And a large part of that is just like, well, if I can't see everyone, then I'd almost rather see no one. Because I feel like wherever I go, I'm betraying someone else.
I don't think it's betraying, but it's just like it's hard because other people have expectations of you and you're trying to meet all of them, but you simply can't.
Yeah.
You can't rip yourself in 5 pieces.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people, unfortunately, have a similar situation in that case. Like if your parents are split. And a lot of times, like, they don't live close together.
Yeah.
So you can't see both your parents, both your families or your family on the one day.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway.
So I guess like for me, this is I'm kind of talking about the discomfort or the readjustment to like holidays as well. And like, yeah, the festive period, but also just like I have like 3 months off for uni. So it's just like readjusting priorities, getting back to like basics, assessing like where it is that I want to be and what I want to achieve in these next couple months, what I want to do. And all of that comes with a bit of like anxiety or a bit of like confusion because I don't know, like we like to have our shit together or we like to know what we're doing. So when it's a bit uncertain, it can just make us feel a little bit out of whack. So at the moment, I'm kind of just like coming back to these strategies that I've kind of like written down to help get through this time and understand like what it is at the core that I need to continue and what makes me feel like grounded and secure in myself to tackle anything that I want to. So I think like the first point we should probably touch on is just like the boundaries or like having like assessing where you're at currently and understanding like what are the feelings that I'm having right now and where do they kind of stem from and what are my priorities? Like what do I want to do? Because that can then make you realize like what you need to say no to and what you do need to say yes to once you have those things like more concrete. So for me, like priorities are having exercise, maintaining like that daily, like doing something active every day, which is just like a very simple thing, but just having that, making sure I've like drinking enough water, all these things can like slowly start dropping away when we lose like a routine. And because I've lost the routine of like uni, it kind of feels like everything else becomes a little bit like more shaky on shakier grounds. So I just need to reassess to myself like, okay, these things are like still important. They're still crucial in my life. Like these are core. So yeah, so exercising, making sure I'm drinking well, eating well, not having like repetitive days of like alcohol consumption because I feel my body needs to like, I feel like 2 days, even for having like a couple of drinks, it'll like, I can feel the effects 2 days later still in my nervous system. So not doing that like back to back. And then making sure that I'm continuing to learn because that's what makes me feel like I'm expanding and I'm not just like staying still. Like I got to learn something every day. I've got to read or kind of delve into an interest, and that helps me a lot. And then other priorities is like the podcast and creating. It's like a very creative act for me because you think about a topics, you think about questions, you think about like what are the important things within it, think about like different content ideas or making like clips and reels and all that. So doing something for the podcast each day, and then making sure that I'm like in social contact and like I'm reaching out to people when I feel that or when I feel like I need some support. And then working still as well. So that's like a priority to try and save money because like during this period it is very expensive and I've got different holidays coming up. So just making sure you're like financially in a good place and trying to save a bit more as well. So those are kind of like my priorities at the moment, which means that I have to then say no to things when they come up, like social things or different activities, just knowing whether they are aligned with those goals or whether they're like detracting and how much room is there for that too.
It sounds like a lot.
Yeah, it is, but it looks different every day. And even like my exercise is different every day. And I think that's good because I like a bit of spontaneity. But yeah, it is a lot to juggle. And I think with that self-reflection, continual kind of self-reflection and checking in is heavily needed. So I do also either meditate, which will clear my mind, or journal, or even just take like mental notes throughout the day of like, okay, I need some stillness right now, or I need to be more mindful of what I'm consuming because I feel my mind is becoming more stressed or more overwhelmed. So that's something I think like you were really good at, is knowing when the mind is becoming a bit more cluttered and that you just might need stillness or silence right now. Like not having continual podcasts or music or TV in the background all the time. And that makes such a huge difference because it means you can just drop into like a space of way more calm and connection with your body and actually like regulating yourself a bit. So it makes such a huge difference and it's such a small thing, but just even like being mindful of what you are consuming. And if you do want to listen to something, is it helping you or how is it affecting your state right now? And yeah, I think like even if you are going to choose that, you kind of still check in and go, okay, this is what this is doing to my body. And how am I going to move out of this? Like assessing those kind of things.
Yeah. I think for me, it's become very clear that I need to keep things extremely simple when you're going into a time with high stress. And for me, that's the only thing that really works and keeps me sane. And it's not necessarily doing less, but just framing it differently. Like instead of upkeeping all these things that I have to do, it's more about what are the 2 priorities I have right now. I want to work on whether it's like study that you have to do or, work that you have to do or something to upkeep your life and secure yourself financially, or how do I feel? So those are 2 like the kind of things that I operate by. And the financial kind of feeds into your emotional state as well. But how do I feel? Okay, I feel anxious. Why do I feel anxious? Oh, I don't know if I'll have enough money to go here and do this and do that. Buy lunch, buy these presents. Okay, well, what can I do? I can work a bit more. Okay, then I do that. And then as I'm working, how am I feeling? Okay, I'm feeling better. Like I'm going towards what I want to do. And it's just auditing how you feel and just keeping it simple.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a bit sluggish. Well, why is that? I've just sat here all day. I've been scrolling on social media for the past 2 hours. Okay, well, what can I do to change that? Go outside. Okay, I go outside. How do I feel now? I feel a bit better. So I just keep doing this.
Yeah. I feel like for me, there are kind of set things during the day. Like I like to get outside in the morning and do something active in the morning because it sets me up really well. And I feel like that positive, like I get those endorphins in the morning and that rush and the sunlight and the serotonin, like all those things, which are just so basic, but like so essential.
Yeah.
And when those things drop, like everything switches for me and your priorities and foundations become rocky.
Yeah.
But if I have just in the morning, just a bit of sunshine, coffee, exercise, so good. Like,
Yeah.
my foundation is set. And then I can, like when things come to me or when other people want to do things, I can have a clear head about like actually where I'm at, what I want, and then understand what you have time for or like what fits into those priorities of yours.
Yeah.
Because I think it is a lot of checking in with yourself, understanding, oh, is this social event? Is this like, do I have time for this? Is this aiding where I'm wanting? Are these the people that I want to spend time with right now? Like socializing is great. And I'm so excited for the upcoming, this period of time because it is great to like reconnect with everybody. But like my battery for that, I do have a capacity, you know? And I think that's important to assess when you're trying to like keep on top of, you know, the rituals that you have and the things that make you feel concrete and feel solid so you can show up in those relationships and in those meetings with like clarity and energy and intention and like you're just your best self when you have things that you want achieved or understood. And it might not be a whole lot either. It might just be like, oh, today I want to exercise and paint an artwork and go to the beach. Like that might be what this season looks like for you, and that's great. But like, if that's really important to you, make sure you're putting in the time to get those priorities done for you, because you'll feel so much confidence and excitement when you're achieving the things that you want to. Like it doesn't have to be massive. It just has to be like what your priorities are and what the things you want to do.
Simple.
It's just simple, yeah.
Simple, but not always easy. And that's why I think simplicity is key. Because as soon as you start to add an extra layer of complexity, when the stress hits, which it inevitably will, it becomes exponentially more difficult to execute or to be able to evaluate how you're feeling. Because if you just need to free up mental bandwidth to be able to constantly reflect. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with today's world is everything is demanding your attention all the time. And we rarely have the ability to step back and assess where we are and be present.
Yeah.
And it only takes 10 seconds.
Yeah. I think I start to notice it when I'm rushing and I think, why am I rushing? Like, is the thing that I'm rushing for worthy of the rush, you know? Or like, if I'm going to be 5 minutes late to meet somebody, like, don't you think that they would prefer you don't be frazzled and flustered and feel stressed and come 5 minutes later? Like, I feel that even with work and if you're bringing people a meal or something, like imagine being put a meal in front of you by somebody who's pacing at you, like super fast, like you're going to be knocked out by this person. Or are they coming a minute later and, oh, hi, how are you? Like, and putting it down gently and not causing, you know, it's also just so contagious. Like that, the energy that you're putting out is quite contagious. And I feel that it can become quite stressful if we're all operating out of, oh, I've got to do this and then this and then this. We start to fill our lives and schedules. And then that's kind of passed on to the next person and you're kind of bumping it to them. So I just think about, okay, would this person want me to be in my best state possible? Yes. Like I think everybody does want that, right? And if sometimes you don't want it for yourself or you think, oh, no, this person just needs me right now, you go, is that actually true? Like, is that true? Are these 2 minutes better spent just being a little bit slower in coming back to yourself and grounded. Like, and I think, yes, yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think we make everything so urgent when almost nothing really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is somebody dying right now? No. But even that, even if somebody, okay, like you don't want to dilly-dally, but you don't want to be flustered because that's when you can't think properly. Like your frontal cortex, your thinking brain starts to shut off with anxiety and stress. So keeping composure, as a lot of doctors do, is so necessary to actually think through things properly.
Yeah. And I don't know which part of the army or whatever it is or where I heard this, but they say slow is smooth, smooth is fast. So if you don't rush and you are deliberate with your actions, your thoughts, and you're not panicked, you can do things properly and efficiently and effectively. And that is faster than rushing and trying to do things quickly
Yeah.
and panicking. And it's like easier said than done.
Yeah, but this is just such a good thing to remember. And like I think like I definitely need this reminder all the time because it is something that can kind of lose you sometimes, like in these moments. And I mean, we're human, it's going to happen, but if we can keep if I can remind myself of these things, then, you know, it's just going to run smoother and I'm going to be able to think clearer and get more done and achieve more at a high level.
Yeah.
So I've got some like subtopics and then tools within them. So like socializing. So during this period, being social and mingling and meeting new people, like it's kind of the time for that. But I think it comes with a lot of energy expenditure. Yeah. So I think it's important just to pick what you will go to and not saying yes to absolutely everything all the time and reassessing like where you are in your day or in your week and knowing like, okay, what is it that I'm craving right now? Is it going and seeing these people or is it doing the thing I said I was going to do or is it both? Like what do I really need and what is the energy that I can expect out of the situation? And that's sometimes harder to say or like it's sometimes not easy to know what it's going to be like. So, for example, if you're meeting people, meeting your friends, but then there's kind of extra people that you've never met before, that's going to be a little bit more energy inducing because, you know, you're becoming more familiar, you're interacting slightly different, like it'll just require more energy. And just even knowing the type of people you are meeting and interacting with as well is a huge thing, and the amount of people as well. So a way that like I kind of assess, because I wouldn't say I'm an introvert, but I wouldn't say I'm an extrovert. I would say I'm somewhere in the middle.
Which is most people.
And I love meeting new people and all those kind of things, but I definitely have a capacity, as I said before. So I think it's healthy to assess whether when you meet with someone, they energize you and like make you feel awesome, or do you feel depleted every time you hang out, or is it very like energy expending? Like what is the kind of interaction that you're anticipating, and is that worth it for you right now? And I think there's different times for different people, and like you can know what friend to go to for what. Everybody operates slightly differently, and what is required of you is going to be different in different social interactions. And that's just life, like that just is.
Yeah. For me, it's mostly how can I get myself in a state so that regardless of what is happening socially or what I'm going to do or is going to happen, then I can approach it in a open-minded, neutral, loving way. And a lot of the work and the preparation and the intention setting happens beforehand for me. And
How does that look?
well, it's a lot of it is what I was talking about before. How do I feel? Is this going to make me feel better or worse? Also, once I've kind of figured out if it's going to make me feel better or worse, why is that? What parts of that is doing that?
Yeah.
So you can make better educated guesses on perhaps the next thing that comes up that is more nuanced and you're not too sure.
Yeah.
But when the kind of, I wouldn't say downside, but what happens a lot for me is it can be a downside is like when you go through all these things beforehand, a lot of the times I just end up saying no. And that can mean that I could potentially be missing out on some really great things. But it also means that I'm definitely protecting myself from a lot of negative stuff. So it's important to stay cognizant of how you feel isn't the truth of the situation necessarily. Like you might not want to go and socialize with these friends because of maybe what happened last time. And that might not happen this time. You might have a completely different experience. So it's important to understand that you're not always going to be right about things. But with that being said, you need to listen to yourself and yeah, there's nuance.
Assess whether it's aligned for you right now or not. I think the other thing is like the setting of the socializing too. So like for me, when I was saying if I drink consecutively, I know my body takes a long time to recover from that. So not doing that. So it might mean even if we're going to like a place where you'd usually drink, like it might just mean not drinking or suggesting doing something else. Even recently, like bouldering with people is like such a fun way, or doing like exercise or going to the beach instead, being like, I can't make it to drinks, but I would love to do like something in the morning or however it looks like for you at the time.
Changing the setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that can also change the whole vibe and how everybody acts as well.
For sure. Yeah.
So exercise and why that is really helpful for maintaining routine and feeling grounded and feeling like on top of it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a new concept, but I think it's important just to briefly touch on it.
Yeah.
Like you can think so much clearer after having done exercise. You feel better, you're more optimistic, and because you're more optimistic, you're more likely to see the good in situations, and it's kind of a positive cycle. So that's why it's good to always, not always, I don't like saying always, but to try and start your day with, it could be exercise, but it also could be the next couple of things that we're going to be talking about, like just something to start off the day, the week, the period of time in a more uplifting way.
It's kind of even just like the routine of doing something or the ritual of doing something all the time. Like even for me, I know that like going back to studying for a second, before studying, I like to have a drink, and it doesn't necessarily have to be coffee, because I thought, and it should stop having coffee so much because I was drinking it quite excessively. Let's just switch out the drink and have a kombucha or any other drink. And it wasn't even the coffee. It was the idea of, I have a drink, now I can study. It's like the ritual of the thing can be so helpful in kind of signaling your body, this is the time for this, or giving yourself structure. So I feel like exercise can be that too. It's like, I've done exercise, now I can plan, or now I can kind of do the next things and feel more capable in my day.
Yeah.
And it is partly to do with the endorphins and all that, but it's also like once you've done the exercise, you feel like you can start to like stack your habits a little bit more as well off the exercise. You go, I have exercise, then I have a coffee, then I have this, like, it's helpful once you can get into the routine of it.
Yeah.
And also it just makes you feel good about yourself. Like it's something that makes you feel good. Like you're going to be stronger. You're going to be like releasing and clearing your mind. So you're more clear and clear-headed to
calm.
Clear and calm. Yeah, exactly. And then so creativity too. So I think creativity is a great thing to have weaved in throughout your day if it doesn't already come up naturally. But having something like, for me, it can be making jewelry or crocheting or even thinking about podcast ideas or creating questions. Something that is creative is so helpful because it gets you into a state of just flow and also calming the mind again. So it clears the head and allows you just to connect with kind of, it's hard to explain, but it's just soul or spirit rather than logical brain and like thinking so heavily, which is a great break between doing strenuous things.
Yeah, it's weird. Habits and creativity kind of like have this interesting relationship where if you break your routine or if you're trying to implement your routine in a new environment, a lot of those solutions is creativity. Like, how am I going to do this now that I'm at my family's house rather than being at home where I usually do these things?
True.
And a lot of the times, even challenging yourself and trying to do something that you normally do in a different way. It could be as simple as, you know, they say brushing your teeth with the other hand.
Yeah.
Or putting your shoes on with the other foot first. It's just like things that shift you out of normalcy and separates you from what you were saying, the logical and analytical brain. And you can get more in touch with who you are underneath all of that.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you can then make better decisions that are more in line with what you actually want rather than what you think you want.
And I just feel like being creative is just part of being human. Like, I honestly just think that, like, we are creators of our own lives. Like, we get to choose what we do and how we act. And, like, I do think that we have so much freedom, and expressing that through being just being creative is just makes us feel like we're living. Well, it makes me feel like I'm living, like I'm creating something, I'm making something. And physically using your hands can be a really good way of doing that, or using your mind in a metaphorical state, or creating lyrics, or just something that gets you into a different realm of thinking and being. I just think it's natural to being human, and that's why I think it's why we have like intelligence, honestly, and consciousness, is to be creative. Like, think about the world that we've built today. Like, that's creation.
Literally everything.
Yeah.
We've made everything up. Like language, what we call things, like everything is made up to the point where, like, you know, we didn't, like, a plant isn't actually called a plant. We just decided to call it a plant. Like that, even at the most
Even
fundamental
that is
level,
creative.
is some level
Yeah.
of creativity.
Yeah. And I think it's just important to try and connect with that as much as possible in life, because for me, that's living. I think that is living,
Yeah.
to be human. Yeah.
Well, if you're not growing, you're dying.
What also kind of comes with creativity is education, is because it's kind of like you're expanding on skill. It's like skills and knowledge.
Well, I think creativity is birthing, the birth of something, the birth of a new idea, a new song, a new poem, a new book, a new bench that you've built. Like, it's the birth of something, and that inherently is growth and expansion and all of those things.
And again, it doesn't have to be massive. It might just be doing a little doodle, like doing a little drawing, or, you know, writing a nice letter to somebody, or a funny joke. Like, it could just be small, but just coming back to being creative, I think, is so important to weave in throughout our days, and not to lose during the busy period of our lives too, is to integrate that into it and make sure we still have that.
Yeah.
It's fundamental.
Balance your consumption with creation.
Yeah, I think, like, there was this quote, or it's just a saying of, you want to create more than you consume. And that is, like, so front of mind for me consistently. And I think that's so true.
And I think it's important. Why it's important is because it's linked to our feeling of value. Like, if you're not giving more than you're taking, it's selfish.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel very good, then perhaps maybe you're consuming more than you're creating, or you're taking more than you're giving. Because it's coded within us. That's how we've evolved to be useful to the tribe, so that we have a connection, and we're not going to get banished, exiled, and
we're not just
die.
taking all the fruit or the food.
Yeah.
We're helping out. Then just some like extra little practices that can kind of calm you when feelings of like stress or overwhelm start to kind of kick in throughout our day, which it inevitably does. Something that I reach for is meditation, just sitting there for 10 minutes and clearing your mind. And I like to do a guided one. You can do them on YouTube, or the Waking Up app is really good, but just something to sit and to clear. And you could just do this in stillness by yourself as well, or listen to calming music for 5-10 minutes, and it's amazing how it just resets you. Another way is just like singing, like humming or singing, and kind of releasing the pent up, built up energy, the stress, and through your vocal cords, calming down through the vagus nerve. Like all those kind of things are very basic, but good to have, good tools in the toolbox to have when things start to get a bit stressful and chaotic. Just start humming, It's pretty simple. The other thing is just getting into the ocean. For me, it's just instant clarity. Like something about like diving in, or it just feels so cleansing. And it is kind of like metaphorically in my head, I always imagine like my water, like the water, how we're like 75% water inside our bodies. I imagine that being tipped out and refilled, and like from head to toe. And it's just a way of just going cleanse. And you might not even need to do that. You just dunk your head in or get your body in, and it's just an instant way to feel calmed and relaxed. Or a cold shower or a lukewarm shower could do the same thing, or a bath. Just water is so calming, and I think a lot of it has to do with like it's just so natural for us. Like a little bit to do with like the womb, maybe. I don't know, like the anti-gravity feeling of pools and baths and oceans. I think maybe it's linked to that. I don't know, I'm speculating, but
I think a lot of it is just familiarity, like doing things that take you back to childhood, because that was a time where you kind of associated it with all these positive things.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely the ocean for me. It's like I've spent most of my life growing up in the ocean, and that's always been a time of like relaxation, going there after school, cleansing, creative, fun. So it is all those associations too, for sure. The other thing is just like choosing silence instead of constant stimulation. So instead of continuing to listen to music or to distract yourself from the feelings, is to try and sit in silence or until it kind of passes. And that's again just like trying not to continually distract and defer these feelings that you're eventually going to have to like feel anyway, but to actively choose to sit in the uncomfortability makes it pass so much quicker, because you're going, okay, right, I'm here, I'm letting it pass, I'm feeling it all, and it's gone. Like emotions don't last for very long when you fully absorb them and allow them just to be. So that could be a helpful way. So that's all the things I've got written down for this episode. I hope it was useful and you've got something out of it, or it reminded you of something that you do that can help you during this. And I think like what all of this comes down to is just trying to keep the basics and knowing when to say no, and kind of having those two priorities in your head of like, okay, what do I need to do and how am I feeling? Like those things. But I hope everyone has a great festive season and enjoys all the festive fun.
Even for those who don't.
Yeah.
Have a great time.
Have a great time. Bye, guys.